Tonight, Gauteng Police Commissioner Elias Mawela is in Finetown in Johannesburg for Operation Okae Molao. Police are continuing the search for the perpetrators of last weekend's shooting. 11 people were shot, 6 fatally. eNCA reporter Moloko Moloto is there following and keeping an eye on the operation. Now, Moloko, you've been giving us updates for the last few hours with a quite intense situation unfolding when 2 children had to be removed from a vehicle. It makes it seem as if it is quite an intense Saturday night, with police having to be prepared for various incidents that they're having to deal with during this operation tonight.
So, Marcel, indeed, these are the live pictures from Finetown. This is the township where, indeed, those killings last week happened. The operation actually started on the intersection where we saw the police stopping and searching vehicles. And generally, they found motorists who were driving under the influence of alcohol. And the last update I got was that I think they had arrested 12, and they had also arrested the people who are suspected to be foreign nationals, undocumented foreign nationals. And one of the things that we saw, Marcel, one thing that was disturbing was that there was a motorist who was arrested because he was seemingly driving under the influence of alcohol. And the disturbing part was that that gentleman was driving along with 2 young children. One of them, who seems like he was possibly 2 years old, was sitting on his lap at the time. And that man was so nonchalant. Even when he was stopped by the officials, it's as if he was unaware of what was happening. Only when the police minister, Begitele, arrived at that particular car, the guy started to become excited to see when he saw the minister. Clearly unaware of the seriousness of what really was happening, the fact that he had a child on the lap as he was driving. But we saw the police officers taking the children, asking him to give them the contact numbers of his family, and they were making calls to say that they will take those children to their homes. But he was arrested on the spot. Another incident that we witnessed was the minibus taxi that was carrying people. It arrived there and the driver switched the engine off and he was made to come out. And even after pulling the handbrake, the car kept on rolling and he had to jump in. Still the car was rolling, a clear indication that the car is not even supposed to be on the road because seemingly the braking system was not functioning properly. So those are some of the incidents that we saw happening. And up to so far, Marcel, I really haven't been able to see weapons such as firearms that police could have seized. They might have happened, but it's not something that I have witnessed. In the main, it was just the people who are driving under the influence of alcohol, and they were arresting both males and females. Many of them young people, I must point out. And there was, as we were still standing there, a gentleman who arrived. He said he was from Mozambique, and he got a call that his cousin was arrested because he was suspected that he didn't have the papers. So it was quite difficult, obviously, due to the language barrier. It was not possible to speak to him. But the operation continues. I was made to understand that they actually, because the difficulties, we were driving from the back, and it's only now that we are catching up. But you can see that gentleman, he's made to throw his alcohol. Maybe if we can get closer, Shahid, just to understand what an issue could be. But this is possibly a man who was walking while drinking, Marcel.
Yeah, like we said, quite a mixed bag of incidents that the police have had to deal with. But one thing's that rather obviously apparent is that the party season has indeed arrived. Saturday nights are back to their party selves across Gauteng. But what's very worrying is that people are not just having a good time, they're getting behind the wheel. And often, like we've just heard, with other people or, in fact, their children with them. What have we heard from Police Minister Bheki Cele, who I see is doing the rounds as well?
Well, the police minister, Bheki Cele, really was saying that the intention is to have more boots on the ground. You'd recall that about 10,000 new police officers were recruited. He's saying that will help in the fight against crime. But obviously the issue of guns that are, all over the country. I asked him whether, there is an intention to have some grace period for people to bring more these unlawful guns. And I also asked whether he would support, because he was saying that a lot of these illegal firearms, at some point, Marcel, they were legal. Either they were owned by the civilians and they were taken from them, or they were owned by law enforcement officers and they were taken there when they possibly are being attacked. And I did ask if that is the case, whether he would support a situation where we have a gun-free South Africa, where not even the police would be allowed to carry guns. And it doesn't seem to be something that he really supports. But the fact that there are so many illegal guns, and remember, Marcel, that just a few weeks ago, when the police arrested a group of suspected illegal miners in the small town of Stilfontein in the northwest, they found that there were about 15 AK-47. These are automatic rifles that in South Africa, people are not allowed to own those guns. Not even the police are using the AK-47 in their operations, not even the army. But these suspected illegal miners had those particular 15 AK-47s and about 6,000 of live ammunition. So that tells you that the criminals tend to have access to these dangerous weapons. And the question is, where do they come from? The fact that they are able to find their way into the country, that is if they come from across the borders. But the situation tells you already that South Africans definitely are not safe. Hence, we continue to see an increase in gun crime, and the number of people who continue to be killed by guns in this country. Surely that is a matter that ought to receive a special attention. We spoke to MEC Faith Mazibuko of Community Safety in Gauteng. You'd recall, Marcel, that just a few weeks ago, the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, as he was addressing the residents of El Dorado Park, he made bold promises, saying that he's going to increase the budget of the Department of Community Safety from 500 million rand to 8 billion rand. Of course, up to so far, we haven't heard where the money will come from. We don't know the time frames as to how that will be introduced. The MEC seems to be correcting me. Ma'am, where is the money going to come from?
It's going to come from our equitable share and plus our provincial savings. We do have money as the province.
All right.
We make through various means. I need to remember others are paying license discs, your gambling fees, your money is generated from the province. So some of the money is going to come from there. And from equitable share.
And the time frames, when are we going to start?
The government is budgeting over MTEF, so meaning over 3 years. We should go to the first tranche of money that we get, we sort out others. The next money that we get in the next financial year, we sort out others.
And when are we going to see the first helicopter, one of the 5 that will be...
New financial year, we want to say, Papa, Sakanye nama, angithi abanye they are going to the training. Once they're out of the training and they know how to fly the pilot, the drones. Remember, they need to be pilots. They must be trained to be pilots. You can't just give a drone to a person who is not yet trained. Meantime, we'll continue working with partners such as Fidelity and other companies, the Business Against Crime and others. They do have drones. So we'll continue working with them until we have finally finished training all hours. Already in the SAPS, there are those that have already passed out of the pass out parade out of the college that can also fly the drones. We actually demonstrated yesterday, they were there. So the drones that already SAPS has is those drones that are going to be utilized over the festive season, and together with those that we have partners with. As soon as our students have graduated by next year, then they'll be able to take over all that those drones that will be bought by the provincial government.
1,800 drones, high-tech drones that you say you're going to...
They are able to even see your face, including CCTV cameras that are also going to be deployed in the whole of Gauteng. So they have what we call face recognition, plus those that will be able to read number plates. So if you drive your car on Gauteng roads, you commit crime, or you don't necessarily, but your car is on the road, it's able to read your number plate and tell who's the owner of that car. Plus, we'll be having these countries from Central Zama Etols. So those countries are also going to assist us on the road because they also have this high-tech technology that is able to read the number plate plus the disc and send that information to our command center, which will be in Midrand, where everything is going to be linked at and be able to see if that car is stolen or that car is wanted or that car and then they're able to tell whoever highway patrol will be closer to that car to say there's that car that we've been looking for, or there's that car that is missing, and and they're able to assist people even that will be on the freeways.
Thank you, ma'am. MEC Faith Mazubugo says the money is there, Marcel. The money is there, there's lots of it, and we are going to start seeing the deployment of all this particular equipment, the 1,800 high-tech drones that they say they will dispatch them immediately to the crime scene once the message is sent to the call center activating that particular action. Of course, this is certainly an intervention that all the people of Gauteng will probably appreciate, but all these plans, we will only start seeing them as they start happening. As the MEC says, in the next financial year, we will start to see action. Next financial year starting next year in April. Marcel.
Great stuff, getting all of the information that we need from the people in the hot seat. You must love the chutzpah of our Gauteng Community Safety MEC, Faith Mazibuko. I don't know if Moloko is still with us. I mean, 1,800 drones being released across Gauteng in the hands of new graduates. What could possibly go wrong is what many people would say watching that. But the last question I want to throw at you, we're talking about all this great technology and innovation that we're going to introduce in our fight against crime, and yet you're standing on a street, like often our colleagues have stood on these streets of these areas where Okae Molao has stationed itself weekend in and weekend out, but often on streets that do not have working street lights. And every time we've spoken to the police commissioner of Gauteng, he has told us that this is a major issue. The lack of lighting as a result of load shedding, or just the lack of lighting in underserviced communities, is a massive issue in the fight against crime, and just community members feeling safer, especially if they have to walk to work or walk home or walk to local businesses. Are you hearing anything about that from local authorities that have made their presence felt during this campaign tonight?
Well, there's no doubt, Marcel, but obviously those are issues that would ordinarily fall under the purview of local government. That's where municipalities will have to come in to provide lighting in the areas. And obviously it would depending on the budget that the municipalities would be having. I mean, in Johannesburg here, we are told already that the city council is having financial troubles. Are they going to prioritize such things? Do they even have money for such? We know already that the executive mayor is actually trying to get council to approve her plans to go to the Development Bank of Southern Africa to request a 2 billion rand short loan. And obviously that already tells you that their budget on its own at this point in time, it's not able to carry them through. And she said, Mpho Phalatse, the executive mayor, that she is going to be briefing members of the media about the state of finances only on Wednesday. This and many other questions in terms of their role. Surely we will have to probe her and say how much money is left, what is it going to be used for. But unfortunately, we are seeing the municipality, despite their financial challenges, they continue to be unable to spend even allocated grants. 740 million rand, Marcel, that had been allocated in conditional grants. About 400 of that was supposed to be expanding the Rea Vaya bus rapid transport system. The remainder, just around 300 million rand, was supposed to create jobs in the city of Johannesburg. That money was taken by the National Treasury. Why? Because the city of Johannesburg failed to spend it. And when they requested to have that money rolled onto the next financial year, the National Treasury said, no, you cannot, because you don't have a municipal manager, you don't have a chief financial officer. In terms of the law, those positions ought to be filled by permanent staffers for the National Treasury to roll over such money. Now, they have lost, and it is their fault as the politicians in the city of Johannesburg for failing to appoint this particular officials. Had they done their job, that money possibly, even if they fail to spend it, chances are the National Treasury would have agreed to roll it over. So local government will have to come on board and assist, particularly on services such as ensuring that there are street lights. Marcel?
Indeed, and we know that you will keep us abreast of all of those developments going